Hello everyone again. This is Mohammed Dagani and I want to talk about how to integrate Simio and Matlab Part 2. Again, if you have any questions regarding this video, you can contact me at simiomatlab@gmail.com. So, in the second part, I will show you how Simio can be called from Matlab. So, in this type of interaction, we have Matlab as the main manager, which could compute any type algorithm such as solving optimization problem. So basically, in this type of integration, you want to take the generated solution by the optimization in Matlab and evaluate its performance in a simulation environment like Simio. Therefore, after each generated solution by Matlab, Simio is needed to be triggered to run simulation experiments to provide you the expected performance of the system. So you consider that you have a loop, and in each iteration of this loop, a new solution will be provided. The solution determines new values for experiment controls in Simio. It's kind of running some type of experiment inside simulation software. So basically, what we want to do here is to call Simio to run the simulation model with the new solution, or in other words, new experiment controls. So, you assume that you have a simulation model inside Simio, and then you put the inputs by changing the controls. So you change the controls, you run the simulation model for a number of replications, and you get your experiment responses or experiment response. So you may want to change the controls again and rerun the simulation one more time. So what you do is you change the control and call Simio again, and you get the response after that. So this is basically an iterative link between Simio and Matlab, which in this case, Matlab calls Simio. Okay, so now I want to talk about what are the applications of this type of integration. Simio is again a powerful software for simulation modeling. Matlab is great for doing the calculations and optimizing the running of experiments. So the first application would be for different scenarios evaluations. Once you have multiple controls and you want to evaluate the impact of each, or a combination of those for your simulation model, you can easily implement that inside Matlab. Matlab changes the controls and you get the results from Simio, and you are going to have this situation if there is any type of connection between these two to get your desired outcome. The second application would be for multi-objective solution evaluation. Once you have more than one objective, you are going to have your own algorithm, not weighted sum algorithm. Could be any other type of multi-objective algorithm. You can easily implement into Matlab and get the solution from the Simio as the simulation environment. And the last part would be having to table experiment optimization. So once you have your input data as the table, either in Excel or Matlab. So you really do not need to define multiple controls inside Simio. You can simply put all of those numbers inside a table, and every time you change those numbers all the time from Matlab, and then ask or call Simio to run the experiment based on the new data inside the table. So, when adding this integration, you can have a variety of different innovative options to run the simulation model inside Simio. These are just some examples of this integration application. However, if you have any thoughts, I would appreciate if you could share those with me by putting a comment in below. So let's talk about how we can implement this. So, same as part 1, just download the zip file from the link provided in the comments. So also includes a couple of DLL files. Then locate your Simio file inside the folder that I provided to you and set up the experiment inside Simio. Because you have to know what the experiment is and then use this algorithm that I'm going to show you in here to run a Simio experiment inside Matlab. So let's do it right now. So basically, what you want to do is you have to download this, part 2. Right-click and click download and unzip the folder. So if you unzip this, you are going to get part 2 like this, so there are multiple files inside here. And one thing that you have to make sure of is that you should have your simulation model inside this folder. So the example that is picked is the Simio example, Hospital Emergency Department, that you can also get it from your Simio sample directory. And if I open it, you're going to see this is an emergency department that is simulated inside Simio. So for this Simio file, an experiment is predefined. So if you go to experiment, you're going to see that there is an experiment called name1. So it is the name of the experiment. Number of replications is set to 10, and the experiment has two controls. One is number of nurses and the other one is number of doctors. And we have two responses. One is the cost of staff and the other one is average length of stay. So basically, whenever you change a control, you're going to see different values for responses. Now, instead of changing those inside Simio or using the opt quest, I'm going to use my own algorithm to run this experiment and change those values and see which one gives me the best outcome. So let's do it right now. So if you go back to your folder in part 2, you can see that I also have one Matlab file called callsimio.m. So if you open it, in this file, I try to put some comments for you to understand the model and modify it for your experiment. In this file, I have a for loop here. In this loop, I'm changing index I from 1 to 5. So whenever I am changing this I, I'm basically changing the number of nurses from 1 to 5. Also, the number of doctors is changing at the same time from 1 to 5. I want to see the effect of those changes on my model. So again, this is a very simple example, but you can have a variety of different models and multiple controls that you want to change. Okay, great. So I define my file path, so my folder, which is c:/test/part2. So define your own path in here and also define your simulation model name. So my Simio file is hospitalemergencydepartment.spfx. These are the inputs that you have to provide in part 1. Then I have to define my scenario. So this is the way you are going to define your scenario. Okay, for every single experiment that you have some controls, you have some response. So first, I have to define my scenarios, or my controls. The way we define is like this. I have the string like this. I put the experiment number, my001. So if I go back to Simio, you're going to see the same number inside the experiment. So the number of my experiment is 001. So if you have different names for it, you can change it. Then I decided to pick the first control, which is number of nurses, and then I am changing the number of that to I. So this num2ster converts the number, which is I, to a string, because I just want to define this string for the whole experiment. Then you put this line to separate the other control. So if you want to put the delimiters, you're going to put this line here to say, okay, from now on, I'm defining my second control. What's my second control? Number of doctors. So again, the experiment number, 001. Number of doctors is just a string. Is that right? And I set this value to again num2ster, I. So when I is changing, also number of doctors is changing. So at the end, I'm just going to have one string. That's it. Therefore, the shape or the format of string for one iteration is like this, 001. The control name and the control value. If you want to put the second control, you simply use a line as delimiter, and then the experiment number, the control name 2, and control value 2. That's it. Okay, for the rest, you don't need to change anything else. So basically, just complete part 1 and 2. In part 1, you define the file path and the file name. In part 2, you define the controls and the values that you want to set for your experiment. So now, since I'm running this one for 5 times, every time changing number of nurses and number of doctors from 1 to 5, I'm going to see the output. So this one displays the output for us. I'm going to get the results from this function, and then you do not need to change the rest of the algorithm. That's it. So I run this to see how it works. So basically, I have to run it 5 times and get 5 different responses for my experiment. So as you can see here, for the first one, I got a staff cost as this and average length of stay as this. So this is experiment 2. It has changed the staff costs and average length of stay. So, and for experiment 3, the same thing's changing. Experiment 4, and finally experiment 5. So this is the way you can run Simio experiments using Matlab. You can easily change your controls and get these functions from Simio. It is going to be a great tool for you to develop simulation optimization frameworks if you want to evaluate different configurations, changing those from Matlab and get the output from Simio. So let me wrap up my presentation. As I said, you can find, if you want to do this, I just explained how you can do it. You can go to the download link from the comments of this video, and if you have further questions about this, you can contact me at simiomatlab@gmail.com. Thank you so much.